What's the difference between a bad drunk and a good drunk, according to you?
A bad drunk is a drunk who gets first aggressive and then violent. 1984, Mrs. Indira Gandhi got assassinated. You know where I was? In a hospital detox.
पंजाबी में क्या बोलते थे?
Change karon sharab te peenge. That means anybody from a good family will drink. They used to say to me when I took over the farm that 7 generations cannot finish your wealth. So I was the law there literally in those days.
You were like the nightlife of Punjab.
By then you also remember what had happened in Punjab. Terrorism had taken over. And let me tell you how strong the addiction is. Went to jail. Fortunately somebody, again I was very lucky. I think I've been blessed all this while. There's a guy there from Amritsar who is the big shot of the jail. He said, send this guy to me, he will have food with me, he's doing nothing. In the morning they gave me a broom. Maybe I didn't even like the other personality. I wanted this wild personality.
Tell them what to look forward to when they are now deciding to go towards sobriety.
Fortunately or unfortunately, when you are deciding to quit alcohol, the biggest problem is your fear, what is going to happen to me now? Once I quit, will I lose all the pleasure, all the safety, all the security of this indulgence? What is funny is that something completely opposite happens.
Today I am tackling a difficult subject, something which I'm absolutely mostly ignorant about, but have witnessed it in my life. For that, I had to sit down with somebody I trust and somebody who would be honest enough to come forward with something as sensitive as recovery and addiction, whether it's alcohol, whether it's substances or things which basically every day ruin the society. But with me is a businessman and a landlord and someone who's been through this over 3 decades ago. 32 years sober?
34 years.
34 years sober, Mr. Ansal. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Nice to see you, Shweta.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
I have to say thank you for being ready to talk about it, because not everybody is very open about it, and you have always been refreshingly open about something which may witness a lot of stigma. So for the viewers, you want to introduce your journey from then to 34 years sober.
So, I started my journey in 1991 when the first thing how I got sober, or let me say till the age of 33, I was still indulging in all kinds of substances, or mostly alcohol. And by the time I was 33, I had reached the end of my life, literally. So I had no choice but start to either get well or die. There were only 2 possibilities. And I chose to get well, which was a very difficult decision because you don't know at that time that you're unwell. You only realize that you're overindulging all the time. So in 1991, in fact, the 27th of August, 1991, I decided to go to a place which was a so-called rehab in those days, which is not really a rehab, but it was a place that I could stop. And I went there, and since then, till today, I have not indulged, and I enjoy living sober, and I enjoy my life.
Lots to unpack there. So yeah, lots to unpack there. This institute you have told me about, this program you have told me about multiple times. So let's go with absolutely raw questions. What was your, let's say, unsober life like?
So let me put it very brief and clearly. I was brought up in a very privileged environment. I was sent to a boarding school at the age of 6, which is called the Lawrence School of Sanaa, which is up in the hills. And I had no problems at the age of 6 or later. But I went to a boarding school, and I mostly stayed in that boarding school till my middle of my teens. Boarding school was a very good place. I think I was very happy to be there, but I also realized that discipline wasn't something I enjoyed. The kind of discipline they give you in boarding schools, and I was very young. So I was brought up privileged. I also was a spoiled child. I was a very sporty kid. I played a lot of games. And eventually, when I finished school, I didn't know that I was going to indulge in alcohol or any other substance. But because I remember my older brother had already started, he was in college. So I think I got a little influenced by seeing the kind of fun he was having, I thought. And also, if you remember, if you don't remember, but I'm saying it, in the early 70s and the middle 70s, there was this hippie movement here in India, the hippie movement. So then everything was free. And it was something that you just wanted to experiment with.
It wasn't so
No, there was nothing happening.
focus on it.
Nah. So I experimented with him, and it seems that I may have enjoyed the experiments. And that is why slowly but surely I got sucked into just the idea of having a good time. Basically, I started because I wanted to have a good time.
That's a very honest way of looking at it. Okay, so what do these experiments look like? Go down micro level, street level.
Yeah.
Tell me what it was like.
So listen, okay, we were in Delhi. I'd finished school, and I think my brother had also finished college, but he had a lot of friends who were a lot of drinking going on, a lot of partying going on, a lot of discotheques those days. There was a lot of discotheques.
In Delhi.
I mean, Delhi, it was a mad. So every night we were out. So you can imagine what.
What were the discotheques those days?
There was a very famous one called Wheels, which was in Ambassador Hotel. There was a very famous one called Sensation, which was in Maiden's Hotel. And then, apart from that, came Tabela after that, which is in the Oberoi. So these three were the haunts of people like us who had a lot of money, who had a lot of free time, and who were just trying to get to have a good time.
A little bit of hedonistic lifestyle.
Hedonistic, totally.
Just for, let's say, social references, what were the brands you were drinking? And what according to you was picked, and then what according to you kind of tipped over, even according to you?
Basically, I don't think we cared too much about brands. My idea was,
It's a historic commentary. Those days,
there was this, okay, if you drank rum, you drank Hercules, an old monk. If you drank beer, you drank Golden Eagle, which was Mohan Meakin's. And if you drank alcohol, we didn't think much of scotch those days. We young kids, you know. So you drank whatever was available. But of course, when you went to discotheques, you bought the expensive ones because you're trying to impress other people. And those days, also remember, scotch was not highly available because the market hadn't opened up. I'm talking of the late 70s. So the market hadn't opened up. And so we were basically, as you said, we were living a totally hedonistic lifestyle because we were able to.
give me an example of a seriously hedonistic day, a real one.
Not day, you mean night.
Day and night.
So basically what we did was, we slept during the day and partied all night. After college or during college, we did the same. I was not interested in studies at all.
So let's say in the evening you woke up at 4 o'clock, then you...
And then you had no. In the initial is no. In the initial days, it starts a little differently. You're looking forward to the night. So you're getting ready. I come back to this, that there was no reason for me to go into it. The reason was very simple. I was allowed to indulge. I was able to indulge. I had an older brother who indulged. So we were able to kind of do it together sometimes. And we met friends who were very common.
So if I could ask you, let's say I'm fairly marinated with that lifestyle, right? I mean, we all go out, but the kind of hedonism you're talking about, I mean, we're in fairly controlled environments these days. You're looking at, in the evening, 5 bottles, 6 bottles, 3 beers, 5 beers. What are you looking at? Just give me a general...
I'll give you an example, a very good example. I went to the Gymkhana club every day to play snooker. Once you played snooker, it was by the evening, I would go to the bar with friends who were playing with us, who were meeting us every day. And then we would tell the bartender, because the bar was open till only 11. Now, that was pre uh, discotheque time. Because discotheque time was later. So would go there, 4 or 5 friends of ours, or even if I went with just one person, and start the evening. So I never drank like a gentleman. Please, let me be very clear. I don't know what gentleman drinking is. If you say, you can you have a 30 ml shot of whiskey? I don't think so. I don't think I ever had a 30 ml shot. And it's not, see, there's two kinds of people actually. There's the gentleman drinker who can drink in a manner which is, controlled, and who's enjoying his drinking because he likes the idea. We drank for just one reason: to get high.
And it's smashed.
To get smashed or high, either of the two. So because it was not something I enjoyed. By the way, I never enjoyed drinking. The taste. I never liked the taste.
So this thing I've noticed, like I'm a very light one, right? So, and if you don't drink, and people are like, "Arey, have one more, arey, have one more," and I'm like, "Well, am I boring yet?" So they said, "No, you're not boring, Shweta." I was like, "Then why are you forcing me? It's okay." Is that pressure? Does that add? Does that ecosystem, that very 4 or 5 people, does it somehow add to your own?
Overconsumption? I don't think so. It's your own, see, let me also clarify, it's your own character and personality which likes to overindulge. So you're not waiting for somebody else to give you a drink. You're going to say, okay, if you are offering me, please.
Interesting.
So you're not being pressured. You're not being pressured. Even the other substances, I'm purposely telling you about this, the other substances were not something that I wanted to be doing. I never knew how to drink. It was never, you think I drank with my parents? No. My father drank once in a while. And that was one drink or 2 drinks. I wouldn't sit with him.
So you learn this whole thing at your own free time, but it wasn't from your family as much.
No. It was only because our company allowed us to do what we pleased. Our company that we kept. Listen, the company I wanted to be in was only them. I wanted to have an exciting company, no? Whether it was the opposite sex or males. Nothing boring was ever going to be something that we were inclined towards.
Interesting. So when did alcohol or substance or whatever it was those days, we don't want to get into it, when did it go from social to a daily part of your life?
So what happened was, I was in college here. I was not interested in college, by the way. I just did it because I was supposed to do college. And I'm telling you very freely because this is how I am.
Yes, I know.
I did college for a year here. And I remember I got a compartment and I was not interested in college. It was just something I did, hardly went to college. But since my friends were in college, Stephens, I was in Hindu. So we knew everybody around. But the people who I knew also in college were the same. So started in college a little bit. Then I decided to leave this college and go back to Punjab, where I had a lot of land. My parents had a lot of land.
First year, second year, third.
This is second year. So I decided that after this second year, I'm going back to Punjab. So I went back to a place called Firozpur, which is my hometown, and got admitted to the college. But when I went to college, I realized that I don't want to study. So in those days, Punjab was a very wild country. It was a very wild country. We were roaming around jeeps. There was those days also, remember, there was a lot of shikar. There was a lot of hunting going on. That lifestyle I loved anyway. And since I had came from that background, all my friends who were there, all were shikaris. And they were shikaris and drinkers. So you can understand what happened. But then there was nothing else to do. So I said, okay, morning shikar, come back by the afternoon, get ready and cook that shikar. When you cook that shikar, means that you are having alcohol with it. So that became my life. And suddenly I realized I want to become a farmer. Because I had so much land, so I decided that I am now going to become a gentleman farmer. Once I took over, since I was the boss of that place, I was able to do what I wanted. nobody to even look at me. So that lifestyle started by that time when I started farming in 1978.
Did privilege make your addiction look easy to hide?
Of course, there are two things here, and we are completely right. Being privileged, nobody asked you questions. Especially today, it's a very different world we live in. Those days, it was if you're privileged, you kind of pretend to be superior. You pretend, and people let you pretend.
People let you pretend. How interesting.
If there are important folk in town, they say it's only a good man's fault. It's only a rich man's fault.
पंजाबी में क्या बोलते थे?
It's basically there's a word कि चंगे करोन शराब ते पीणगे. That means anybody from a good family will drink.
Interesting.
So basically, I was in a way that nobody would interfere. And if they knew I overdrank, it was a good man's fault. You overdrank and you say, oh, forget about it. There's another thing it was in those days for the privileged lot was that raat gayi aur baat gayi. So what you did stupidly at night or behave stupidly,
To be forgotten.
you just carry on, you're so great. That's the stupidity of that time. And we were able to indulge, so that privilege also let me deny everything. To myself, I never thought I was doing anything wrong. I'm supposed to. I am so privileged that I'm supposed to do all this rubbish.
Was, there are different kind of outcomes of being today's world being smashed. Either you're way happy, or you're a bit aggressive, or you would be downright violent,
Violent.
right?
Yeah.
Which one was you?
So it started reasonably happy. Reasonably happy. In the first few years, maybe. It was, you were smacking people on the back and, how are you? And yeah, all that. But that was very short. Then you got aggressive. Then I got aggressive. And I also, violence came much later. Aggression was something that was in me anyway. And it got a free rein once I drank. I mean, a lot of guys who overindulged have got into aggression, and it was very easy to get into a fight because somebody pushed you
Or ticked you off a little bit?
for some reason. So I'm saying there is always something that triggers me. So I was triggered later on. Initial days I was still okay, but yes, I realized today I had a lot of aggression in those wild times, because let me also say, in those days Punjab was the Wild West. Today everything's microscopically looked at. Nothing was looked at those days. I mean, you could do what you wanted and nobody would complain.
Yeah, nothing to complain to actually.
Who would you complain to? Because all the people who were of any caliber in the senior officials, they were all known to you. And they would never even come close to trying to say anything to you until you committed a crime. So basically it is that the aggression part was something that allowed me to move further. Suppose I had to also remember, like I said, Punjab was a wild west the time. So the people who also, there's no entertainment in Punjab.
Nothing to do.
Nothing to do. So what do? I've studied in a public school. I've been to national level colleges. I'm English speaking. I speak Punjabi also and Hindi. But I was given an education to be of one of those gentlemen guys.
What a dichotomy, trying to control how you are after alcohol and still trying to remember to be a gentleman. What's the difference between a bad drunk and a good drunk, according to you? Let's not get 2026 like.
No, but see, I think there is not a good drunk, except for a drunk who can collapse or a guy who can just fall and be taken home. That may be a good drunk. A bad drunk is a drunk who gets first aggressive and then violent. And then who misbehaves and is unable to know where he is completely and doesn't give a shit or it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You see, we all have our little addictions: cigarettes, alcohol, smoking, somebody has weed, God knows what. I'm slightly scared of personality altering entertainment, for the lack of a better term, which alcohol typically does, right? And I've been in a relationship with a guy who was an absolute alcoholic, which I did not know. I just thought he's a happy boy, which is such a easy thing to misunderstand it till it gets to a point where it becomes uh, unbearable. What are your personal experiences of the impact of alcohol in personal relationships while you're still addicted? Because you're now sober, so I'm sure that process is also complicated.
So let me just tell you, you're right. Firstly, it alters your personality immediately. For me, it altered my personality. By the end of it, I didn't have to have alcohol in my mouth. If the glass was there, my personality had already altered.
Oh gosh,
I'm not
I
joking.
hear you. It's so.
It's actually a fact because my personality starts to change not because of the alcohol only. The whole thing has triggered something. So I realized that my personality was waiting to be altered. You understand? What has happened is that personality that maybe I didn't even like the other personality. I wanted this wild personality.
Oh, how interesting.
Interesting, na? Because that's something that nobody thinks of. Then, also when I went back to becoming a gentleman farmer, let me also say, for 2 years I did fabulous farming. Till the alcohol got into me and mastered me. Rather than my being a master, that became my master. I was playing fabulous golf. I had gone beyond normal stuff and I thought I should get married. Now that thought, where it came from, I had no idea.
You thought, okay, something will fix this.
No. I don't think that was the thought. So I met this, now see how what alcohol does actually. So I met this person, I don't want to right now go into details, but from a very well-to-do, very well-known family who was like me. She also liked to indulge. So both of us met at a time that I decided that this one should be my wife. And because we were everything was common.
Your timing, your schedule.
Yeah, everything is common.
Interesting.
So I got married at the age of 24. You asked me a reason, I had no idea. Why did I get married? No idea.
Towards recovery or?
No, towards alcoholism, complete alcoholism. Recovery, yeah, towards going downhill, you have to be isolated. And so that is what happens, there are no relationships. Upar say you can try and show, from the surface that, hello sir, hello ma'am, that much you can do. That much I did very well. I had that much common sense that all the people that I wanted to kind of impress and show that I'm a very educated and gentleman guy, I'll say, hello sir, how are you? My in-laws, they said, hello sir and ma'am. Because that was my conversation. Uske baad, there was no conversation. And best was that my father-in-law also liked to indulge. So if there was indulgence, even with him. But again, relationships, zero. Because I'm not joking, I don't remember any conversation I've had that made sense. It was all that conversation that is nonsensical.
I must ask, what was the tipping point?
Let's say over the top drinking. And with my wife then we started indulging in other chemicals to get high sooner.
Because now this wasn't really.
It was too much. No, it was not entertaining. And also, by then, all the other chemicals hadn't come to the market, but there were a few. And to get them wasn't difficult. So once that started, then there was a combination of all this coming in my life, and it made my life miserable. My in-laws weren't going to say it. My own family wasn't going to say it. Yes, they must have sometime mentioned to me and I must have walked off, but nothing that stayed with me. 1984, Mrs. Indira Gandhi got assassinated. You know where I was? In a hospital, detox, East West Medical Center. But there was no cure. Nobody knew of a cure. I didn't know of a cure. Doctors didn't know of a cure. Why I'm saying this, I'm coming to the later part of how I got into recovery. So nobody knew about recovery.
There was no holistic.
No, there was nothing to it. They only gave injections and it made you worse.
What injections?
It's an injection called Lagectil. It's for mad people. To try and calm you down, they would give injections when you came off. And those were even more dangerous. So nobody knew what to do. And then they gave you a lot of medication with that, which you overindulged in when you went out because you don't know how to live. So that's what happened. So 84, I was in East West Medical Center in Jorbag, not Jorbag, Golf Links. Then 84, I had my daughter. My older daughter was born in 84. Again, I tried to sober up. Couldn't. So she was born in 84 and she's now 42. Her name's Noor.
I met her.
You met her. So, continued from 84. I was arrested abroad in California.
Oh, wow.
Drunken driving. Because I used to rent, as soon as I reached the airport, I would rent a fab car.
And just gun it. And just gun it.
So that's what I did. And when you're out of your mind, cops there are going to catch you. So I was arrested. And you know what they gave me the judge, what he gave me as the punishment? 6 months, go to a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I didn't know what it was about. I said, damn good, yeah, nothing. Just go home now. So that was in 1985 in Malibu. And Malibu was creating the same ruckus everywhere.
If this is turning out to be the most interesting script that you've heard, we'll take a break in 2 minutes and come back to you.
I'm just saying that when I last mentioned to you that in Malibu, when I was there, I got arrested for drunken driving. And that's the time I realized that I have completely gone out of control. I didn't know what to do. So in coming back to India, my life had become completely unmanageable. I was not interested by then, I was not interested being with anybody. If it came to any so-called relationships, I didn't know who I was having it with. There was no idea what I was doing. And I was just trying to pass my time till the next drink.
Wow, that is
where I had reached.
That is tough.
So also, I had come to a stage where money was running out. They used to say to me when I took over the farm that 7 generations cannot finish your wealth. And I did it very, very quickly. Easily, because not only that, it's a lifestyle. I used to keep 6 staff around me because by then you also remember what had happened in Punjab. Terrorism had taken over. Now with terrorism, they gave me a damn good excuse. And I'm saying this is insanity. I had gone insane by then.
But I mean, this is not like the stereotypical insanity.
No, it's a different insanity.
Different.
It's a different. It's not that insanity. In fact, the insanity here is that you don't listen or hear anything else now. Mind is gone, in complete control of that substance. And also because I liked the idea of these guns, I had a lot of weapons. I owned a village.
Like you said, Wild Wild West.
I owned a village, and all the guys in the village.
Few villages.
But in that village that I was living also was mine. I owned 84 villages my forefathers had. So that village was mine. So I was the law there literally in those days.
You were like the nightlife of Punjab.
Yeah. So day and night. If there was a day. And that is what eventually was my downfall. Terrorism took over. I started imagining that if I was standing on the terrace of my house waiting for terrorists to come so I could shoot. That's how violent I had got.
You know, funnily thinking, that was quite a productive way of channelizing aggression.
Of course, but I'm saying that is how insane I had got. That it didn't make a difference to me. In the last days, 88, my brother died, my older brother, who I said was an alcoholic. He banged into a truck, a parked truck, and he died in Delhi, Dholakwa. 1990, my father passed away. He was only 63. And he passed away because I don't think he could take too much of the trauma that had happened to him. I was completely gone. And I was driving in my drunken state throughout the state of Punjab and Delhi. So, 91, I think it was 5th of May or something, I got arrested. I got arrested in New Delhi. Guess how I got arrested? I was so drunk, I didn't know I'm getting arrested. I was by then supposedly following some car with these weapons inside my Jeep. I had a gypsy, I told you, with searchlights because you should go for shikar with those. Fog lights, searchlights also for shikar. And I suddenly, they tell me this. Now, who tells me is the cops and the guy who I was supposed to be following. He was a Supreme Court lawyer. I'm following him into Tughlaq Road police station. And I'm going inside the police station with my weapons, three weapons in my car, all loaded, because I was in terrorism time in Punjab, so I always kept loaded weapons. One of them, because my father had died, I hadn't got it transferred to my name.
I understood that. I understand.
So they said, what are these weapons doing in your car?
So many of them.
And then they asked me. I gave them no answer because I couldn't. I was in no state to give them an answer. They arrested me. And that's the time the change took place.
That's the tipping point. So, before we go ahead into recovery, which is good news and which is an amazing story of sobriety that you've come to, did you realize that people misused you a lot? Did you realize that?
You're saying then? You're saying then?
Yes.
No.
But they were.
Of course, all my friends were sponging off me only because I was a big spender. I thought I was Maharaja Sahab. I was the biggest spender.
Fed into that ego of yours.
Of course, I was a big egomaniac. I loved the idea of all my friends in Chandigarh, Firozpur, Delhi sucking up to me because it made me feel I had nothing left inside of me. It made me feel great. So all those guys were good time friends. Some of them are still around though.
Who've just seen you like this.
But all the friends that I drank with are gone. They're not around.
That, your healed energy can't really be around.
And you can't. So I can't even, the ones who are still, I don't think there's anybody alive who can do the indulgence I did. So by then I was either going down to death or I had to rise. I got arrested and I was put into jail. And I didn't know why. So my mother, who was the only one left, had to bail me. She bailed me out. But remember those days when you went to jail, they put leg irons on you.
What do you mean? Oh, like clasps.
From here, leg irons means that the whole thing is there's these two rods, they clasp you in the foot with, and you can hardly walk. So I went through that, and let me tell you how strong the addiction is. Went to jail. Fortunately, again, I was very lucky. I think I've been blessed all this while. There's a guy there from Amritsar who was the big shot of the jail. He said, send this guy to me, he will have food with me, he's doing nothing. But in the morning, they gave me a broom. They said, start sweeping. And then this guy was there, and he said, you come and sit with me. And he gave me good deshi ghee and food. So that 2 nights I had to spend. Then I came out, and that's when my recovery started.
Wow. So, okay. So let's dive into those 2 nights when we had no access to alcohol.
I had
Was that like?
No, now let me tell you, those 2 nights, I had access to other substance. Because the jail authorities in those days,
Unbelievable story.
jail authorities in those days were not so strict. So I had my staff outside, the ones who used to carry around with me, all my sidekicks. One of them got in touch with the cop who was inside. So he said, okay, I want to send something. He said, send it, give $1,000 and send it. In those days, it was a very different story. 1991, I'm talking of, 35, 34, nearly 35 years ago.
First 24 hours without alcohol comment. If you remember vividly.
See, I'll tell you the first real episode I'll tell you is when I went to a so-called rehab, because till I came out of jail, I still couldn't stay stopped.
I hear you.
So I had to go immediately. A guy who's just passed away, a guy from Jodhpur who was a relative of ours, Yashwant Singh, he was going to this place, the rehab. He chickened out. And suddenly I said, if you're not going, let me go. That's how my recovery. I was actually not going anywhere. But suddenly I got this opportunity to go to Bangalore, Banargatha Road, which is where this place was. It was an old cinema hall. Cinema hall converted into a slum dwellers and so-called rich people's rehab as a dormitory. And there, when I was without substance, 21 days and 21 nights, I could not sleep or do anything.
Okay, let's stay in that timeline right now. Tell me more. Tell me episodes. Maybe you're wanting to, you couldn't find it, or you really did attempt to go out to a guy, give me some. Tell me real, what exactly happened.
In rehab time, okay, let me say one thing very clearly. In Bangalore, 1991, August 27th is the day I reached Bangalore. May I was arrested, August I was in Bangalore. There, I had decided that I am not going to use anything, whatever happens.
So it was you first.
It was only me. I wanted to get well because I felt I've gone too mad and I'm going to die. So then I made sure that I was in the rehab for 2 months. I first went, I had a beard and a mustache, which you can see in the photograph there. First I did was I shaved my head, my beard and mustache for a new Navin. I didn't know I was doing it.
It's a subconscious reset.
It just happened. Suddenly I saw myself in the mirror. I said, who's this guy? And that's where the journey started.
You've walked in, you've checked into your whatever the
Premises.
and you have a schedule to follow.
Yeah.
And then there is no alcohol inside.
Nothing. I'll tell you very honestly, I was suffering. There was so much physical and mental torture going on that I couldn't think. All I could think was that, firstly, the environment was very, very painful for me. To be closeted in an old movie hall, the projector wala movie halls, and not allowed to get out was something that was the only thing that bothered me the most.
Trying to think of the mental strength that needs.
But because there was 2-3 guys who were English speaking, and the rest were from South India who were not my language, and they were from the slums. So I had no connection, but there were 2-3 guys who were in the same. Next to me was a guy who's opened a rehab actually. Bulao. And there was another guy, I forget his name. So these guys I could talk to, and they were all very serious about recovery. So suddenly I got that idea I can do it. With them,
Angels for you.
they were just there to tell me, let's do it. So everybody got serious.
What was the physical discomfort about?
See, because I was indulging by then in all other chemicals also. So the alcohol withdrawal, the chemical withdrawal, you can't sleep, your eyes are watering, your legs are hurting, your body is paining, and there is restlessness, being completely unable to do anything.
What were the other discomforts like?
The other was there was no loo.
What are you saying?
There was, for these 50 people, there were 2 loos without water. And you had to utilize that scene,
Communion washroom or something.
whatever, and then you get water from outside in a bucket.
This was manual labor for you.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah. First time I did it. It taught me.
वही मैं कह रही हूँ, all of you.
It taught me. It taught me. I taught me that listen, come what may, you're going to do it, and I did it. So, I mean, there's a very interesting episode there. You were not allowed to use the loo at night because firstly there was no water. They didn't want you going out. The loo was a little out of the main this thing. So there was a bucket lying there. You had to use the bucket. And that bucket had to be picked up by you in the morning to chuck away. You can imagine? So when people tell me today, that Navin, you're very lucky, you got the money, you can stay nice and sober, enjoy life. I say, don't forget, I had a piss bucket in my hand.
You went through there was a price to pay for.
Yeah, you have to.
Price to pay for self.
You have to change your whole mind to get okay. Because my mind was not working anymore.
Did a different environment trigger a bit of mind shift? Or other people who were in your...
No. I had already decided. I decided that I am not going here.
What was harder, quitting the alcohol or recovery? The mental recovery process, or was it just...
The process is quite difficult actually.
Explain.
Because I was told that the only way to recover, thankfully I was told, the only way to get well or recover is to go to a 12-step program. Now, I didn't know what a 12-step program was. I had no idea what they're talking about. Funnily, there was a 12-step program here.
In Delhi?
In Delhi.
You were in Bangalore and you heard about a 12-step
program. And I went there. Once I started going, recovery started coming. It was very difficult because I didn't understand how was I supposed to recover? I had no understanding. In those days, I'd only known one lifestyle, no? How do I find a lifestyle which tells me, throw away your ego, throw away your old mindset, throw away everything that you've ever done in your life and start from zero. I had to start from zero. And start from zero being happy. That's the most difficult thing to do. No money, no family, no nothing left, no occupation. No, by the way, no occupation. Because the land that was left, there was 70 acres left, which was under litigation because when I went to rehab, somebody took possession of that behind my back. No. Somebody took possession of that behind my back. Suddenly I was left without any land also.
Is somebody known to you?
No. Some good time. So good time because of the days of terrorism, everything was very different. People could do a lot of these things. But then I was able to not feel so bad. I was able to actually, I had another which Rasil knows. I always thought that I'm like the phoenix rising from the ashes. That there was some spark in me which said, listen, you'll do it. You'll reach anywhere you want. And that was then. I'm talking of the first year of getting sober. This idea was always in my mind, and Navin, because actually I was so badly demolished in myself that the self started rising. With the alcohol and the other chemicals, I had been completely, subdued. The actual self decided that, listen, you can do it. I was fortunate. I hadn't lost the use of my legs and my hands and nothing else. Fortunately, I knew how to speak. I started getting into sport, Gymkhana Club. I started playing badminton. And I was able to get back. My fitness was very good. And I started feeling really strong and vital and virile. Everything started.
You were not introduced, I don't think you were familiar with how your body was while you're in a state of intoxication, neither how your brain was. You were disconnected.
Totally.
Wow.
So when I got sober, everything started getting new. I'm a new guy. Yeah. I'm a new guy. Who's this guy? I don't know. A new guy started emerging. And the new guy who was totally cold sober and actually able to feel strong, if you feel physically strong and mentally clear, you start to feel, I started to feel good. And I started playing table tennis with the kids. I started playing cricket with the kids. I had nothing to do, I had no work.
His recovery was the most honest recovery ever. Tell me now, sober for 3+ decades, is there any pattern to addiction? Any early pattern to addiction? Or let's say you go to a living room, you have 5 people, and you knew this guy, I don't think it's going to go well for him.
There is one thing which is a very clear sign. An addict or a let's say an alcoholic is very insecure. Internally, he will not show it. There's an internal insecurity that's eating him up. He'll be very touchy. He'll be very angry. He'll be very defensive. So you can see the personality of a disorder like alcoholism is apparent to people like me today because that's what I do. I actually love giving the message of recovery to anybody who wants it. And then I also felt too much feeling, too many feelings. And the most important is because I was very internally insecure about I don't know what.
What were you insecure about? You had money, you're good looking.
Everything. You have everything, but you're insecure because that's the way you are. And people make excuses. My parents were this, this thing was surrounding. No, my parents are extremely loving. Not only that, my parents not only loving, they were very kind. They were. I never got hammered as a kid.
So nobody caused your insecurity?
No.
I hear this new age, I'm insecure, because it's very Freudian though, most of it.
Yeah, listen, I feel, yes, let me also say there are certain things that may have happened to a lot of alcoholics they will not admit it. They're traumas that have happened. They're trauma because they're so sensitive. You see, earlier we used to say sensitive is very good. Being sensitive, you can't survive on earth. You have to lose that. To be surviving as a recovering alcoholic, you have to lose that sensitivity. You have to get less sensitive. And because of certain traumas I may have experienced, and a lot of alcoholics have experienced, when you were much younger.
And you kind of maybe don't even recall it.
You don't recall it.
Because it's trauma block.
But whatever it is. But I can say very clearly, I have not come across one alcoholic who's not deeply insecure.
Wow.
And he can portray, like Richard Burton, to be very suave and sophisticated. That's a good act.
Wow. This question I've written because I didn't know if I had to ask, do families unknowingly enable addiction?
Yes.
And not just parents, I'm talking about your wife or girlfriend.
Girlfriend, parents, everybody. Parents start by not letting you get hurt and cocooning you. Not understanding that please be open. Openness is required. Sobriety, the only criteria that you have to start with, no secrets. No secrets. And parents enable you first. Because in my case, I'm not blaming my parents, but unknowingly, they don't know better, no?
Wow.
They enable you by listening to you, by allowing you to get indisciplined, by allowing you to get your way. Alcoholics are, what is it called actually? They're too self-willed. And that is the problem with alcoholics. They want it their way. Your other brothers, chodo yaar, what's the point of saying anything? So you're being enabled by everybody who is around you. And then they don't want to admit it because they feel, what will society say? If you're in a family and you have brothers and sisters, they don't want to tell the world. They feel, which today thankfully the stigma is gone. They feel that the stigma will be attached to them.
I see.
So they don't want to admit it.
is being overtly careful or polite with the person who's suffering basically long-term damage in this case?
Totally. If you're not firm, if you're not straight, if you're not honest, this is a disease of dishonesty.
This is a disease of dishonesty.
Yes. It's a real dishonesty disease because you're denying everything. You're denying facts. In fact, I mentioned to you earlier, and I'm saying it purposely for you to remember that the first thing I had to do was get honest with myself. Second thing I had to do was realize that that life was so constricted and myopic and so small that what I've had the pleasure of living in the last 34 years goes beyond description. The amount of fun and the amount of crazy fun I've had in the last 34 years of my life.
Riding bikes, having coffee, enjoying some.
No, I've done so many things crazy. I've been living a crazy life of goodness. See, I was fortunate that I met Rasila after a year and 2 months of living sober. I was blessed that I got a partner who was a supportive partner, who was also making a great life for herself. So I was able to, together with her, rebuild and rebuild the kind of travel we've done, the kind of fun we've had.
Different high.
Totally. And also the kind of good times we've had together, the kind of ecstatic, I'm purposely using the word ecstasy, because I never imagined after all what I did, I'd become ecstatic in life ever. I became a businessman.
You were a lord.
Yeah, but I became a businessman. I've been doing the same business for 33 years. And I learned on the job. Because fortunately, recovery from this 12-step program gives me the ability to be open-minded, to be honest, and willing to do anything. I'm willing to go to any length to have a good time.
Wow, Navin, this was amazing. I must ask for my audience, and maybe somebody will need to hear this if they are on their journey to sobriety. What would be the few things you would tell them? And you can look at the camera when you say that. That would be the camera. When you say that, tell them what to look forward to when they are now deciding to go towards sobriety.
Fortunately or unfortunately, when you are deciding to quit alcohol, the biggest problem is your fear, what is going to happen to me now? Once I quit, will I lose all the pleasure, all the safety, all the security of this indulgence? What is funny is that something completely opposite happens. I am given the ability to go to a 12-step program which will guide me into getting a life of happiness. What it does is that the amount of happiness I wanted, it gives me happiness 10 times over, 100 times over. But I have to stay stopped. Every day, one day at a time, I have to move forward. And I have to let go of the idea that I will be bored. Nobody gets bored without alcohol if I start building a good life. I have to rebuild. And that's very important. Rebuild with other people like me. Take their help. Rebuild with other people who are in recovery and start to hold hands and move forward. And must find that recovery is something that is beyond explaining. It's to be experienced. The experiences of something that you have never imagined. It's an experience that nobody should miss because it is a huge change from what I was to what I have become. I am not Naveen that I was then. I have become a new person of caliber. I have become a person who has tremendous esteem and tremendous goodness and goodwill. And the best part is I feel good about myself. That's what all happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I mean, so that was just so honest. And with his permission, when we release this podcast, We'll be leaving a contact if you need help, if you need support. You reach out to Navin sir at the organization that he works with. We'll do our very best to take you there, or at least go experience his kind of sobriety. He makes it look so cool, so much cooler than being addicted. But thank you very much.
Thank you for asking me to share my experience of the addiction as well as a little bit of recovery, because the real experience will start for anybody else who wants to contact you or me once you come into recovery. To explain it, there's no other way.
Oh, thank you. And we're cheering with a cup of coffee.
Yes.
See,
Cheers.
it's not too.
Shweta's talking.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hmm.
No alcohol.
No alcohol, no alcohol.